Welcome into TWMP Daily. I'm Scott Faughn, joined by Aaron Shrimp.
Yeah, always happy to be here.
And the Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Catherine Hanaway. It's kind of fun to say that.
It's kind of fun to hear.
So you getting settled in?
I am getting settled in, and here's what I've learned so far. Number one, the team is so much better than I had anticipated.
Yeah.
I would say the communications team is the best I've worked with in 30 years of being in this business. The government affairs team is incredibly talented, and that's just the non-lawyers. Then you get to the lawyers. The Solicitor General's office, I would argue, is the best in the country. And so Missourians have been getting their money's worth from this office for sure.
You know, it is an interesting thing. You're the Attorney General, the buck stops with you, but you have to have a massive team. And that massive team, it's amazing. If you flip up the old Blue Book, right? I still buy the copy of the Blue Book every year. And you kind of read the bios of legislators and department directors. The number of folks that pass through the Attorney General's office that impact the state, they may go on to be a Democrat state rep or whatever, but the number of people that whose career you're going to have touched is an amazing farm system.
It's an amazing farm system, and it is the most important thing that I need to spend time on is recruiting.
Yeah.
Because that's how the work gets done. I can only touch so many cases, and I'd like to send a message out to anybody who's watching. We probably have 30 openings right now. Some lawyer, some non-lawyer. Look at our website, apply.
I think Chris Stevens would say it's a good career move. I think Tom Albus might also say it's not a bad place to go for a little bit. And it maybe you're not a career person there 20 years, but it is just so incredible the volume of people that have 2, 3 year, 4, 5 year stints in that office. It really is a great place to learn government and build a connection and an understanding of government and law that I'm not sure where else you get that.
My mentor, the spin master, Jack Cardetti, started in the
Oh
Attorney
yeah,
General's
Cardetti.
office, so,
That's right, the Prince of St. James. So you all settled in though?
I am settled in. Enjoying the sort of back and forth between Jeff City and St. Louis. My husband's still in St. Louis, but I try to be here during the middle of the week. We did buy a house here. It's a little bit like a frat house, honestly. Not a lot of furnishings, but we're getting there.
A little Spartan development.
Little Spartan.
There you go. The issue that, to me, you came out of the gate talking about was you go into a gas station and you see this candy that's got drugs in it, but it's made to look like candy. I actually grabbed something. So if you go out your conference room and you look out that window that looks over Dunklin Street, you can see the place I bought this. This is an Airhead piece of candy.
Except, it's not a comment on my intelligence, Airhead? No?
Well, the hemp people might disagree. They're on drugs.
He's not quite that brazen, even on
no,
his own
she
show.
knows I don't. I'm not man enough to throw down stuff like that. But this is a candy, and I, as you can tell, I eat a lot of candy, so I know what I'm talking about here. This looks just like the Airheads you would buy. That whoever makes Airheads, this is drugs.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's Airheads, it's Chips Ahoy cookies, it's Skittles, and it's available right there on the counter with no age gating. I'm not even sure the cashiers can tell that Airheads from the normal Airheads when they're ringing it up. So you know kids are buying this stuff.
Yeah.
And that really concerns me.
Well, I'm not a big fan of making stuff illegal. There's plenty of stuff that's illegal. But this does seem wrong.
Well, here's the problem. We have hemp being sold as an intoxicating substance.
Yeah.
This isn't industrial hemp. This isn't somebody making
It's not a rope. Yeah.
Then we have cannabis stores that have opened up without licenses all over the state. And we have these video lottery terminals, and we'll talk about those. Yeah. But all three of those industries, when you combine them, are multi-billion dollars that is going through the state, untaxed, unregulated. And my number one objective is to reduce violent crime in the state. And if you allow this kind of illegal activity to go on, you encourage criminals to come to our state because, hey, I can make a lot of money, not pay tax on it. You know, the next thing that's going to happen is turf wars over who gets to sell where. So that's why I'm trying to shut it down. I don't want us to get real organized crime back in the state.
What can you do in your office right now to take these out of the convenience store that you can see from the back window of your conference room in the state capitol?
Well, I think somebody just moved way up the priority list of who we're going to go after. That's a very good point. Public nuisance laws. We can enforce the public nuisance laws, and if people are selling intoxicating substances and aren't licensed to do so, we can also work with the local prosecutor to try and get them shut down. And I think part of the issue has been there weren't enough resources backing up local prosecutors. And I am clearly messaging to local prosecutors, we've got your back, whether that's lent talent, you need somebody to write briefs, we're going to help you with that. If you need us to actually loan a person for some time to work on some priorities, we'll do that. Or if you need us to adopt the cases, whatever they need.
That is interesting because you have high-level prosecutors that prosecute major crimes. And that on a local prosecutor can be really, especially a part-time prosecutor, to prosecute a major crime like that. I mean, it could bog the whole office down for weeks. I mean, that is an interesting resource share you can do. But this goes back to almost a running theme. This has been around for a while.
Yep.
This is not, to the Missouri legislature, this is not, oh my God, I can't believe they're making airheads to be drugs and selling them in gas stations. Nothing's happened. And I look back on the sports betting. Oh, I have a lengthy list of vices. Somehow I dodged gambling. But sports betting, I think folks would pay a tax on that. And right now, because the legislature could not move on something the public wanted, the public receives very little to no benefit from that. Where you have your dispensaries, they actually did right that, and there is a good chunk of money. Something tells me it might have got a better deal if the legislature would have acted. The legislature could act on this, and I think they are, as we talk, bringing it up in the House.
Yeah, I was going to say perfected recently, this morning.
Isn't there a thing to give you the ability to get involved in this? And that's got to come from the legislature, right?
It has to come from the legislature, but look, on all these vices, I'm not on a moral crusade. I'm on a prevent violent crime crusade. So if the legislature says they're legal, then I'm going to be fine. I'll enforce that law.
Sure.
But right now, they're illegal, and I am going to enforce the law. And if they decide they want to make that legal, I hope they put age gating on. I don't want to see it get sold to our kids, but what adults want to do in their free time, that's up to them. But the state should get its fair share, and we should not encourage a criminal element by letting illegal activity go on.
It's hard to make the argument, too, that this is what Missourians authorized with the ballot issues. I don't think that that's what Missourians voted on. They did not vote.
A loophole,
yeah.
And to me, you know, exploit a loophole, that's one thing. They are exploiting a loophole ridiculously. I mean, they have blown, it's not even a loophole anymore, it's a loop vortex. That when you're down to doing stuff like that, I think that's almost impossible to defend. David Gregory actually has a bill in the Senate that I think would couple with this bill in the House.
Yeah.
It feels like there's momentum towards a solution. And the legislature, that's kind of becoming the problem of a one-party state, is you're almost paralyzed, and they don't address issues, and they kick them down the road. Maybe this is the year they do that.
Well, and I think the fact that the federal law has changed. In the bill that got passed in order to reopen the government, the feds repealed the hemp exemption. And it doesn't take effect for a year, and there's probably still some rulemaking to happen around it. But I think that gave the legislature some encouragement to say, well, now it's going to be federally illegal. Maybe we can do something here.
Well, speaking of my lengthy list of vices, buddy Kyle in Warrensburg sent me this terrific stein that only will hold Anheuser-Busch products after today. Look at that, from Bern. I mean, this is an old school German.
That is beautiful.
Very grateful, buddy. Thank you very much. Let's talk about VLTs. Did you think when this started you would be this central to this whole discussion? It felt to me like you didn't go out looking to be as visible in this as you are, but it's kind of ended up there.
Yeah, that's for sure true, and I don't like what's happening right now. Some testimony I gave in the House Appropriations is sort of being leveraged by some to indicate that there is some right way to vote on this bill, and that there's a wrong way to vote, and that law enforcement officials will investigate a particular vote. The legislature is there to do its job. I'm here to do mine. Theirs is to make the law. Mine is to enforce the law. So right now, video lottery terminals are illegal in Missouri. I think they're having a very corrosive effect on our economy the way they are. I think they're going to encourage a violent element. But if the legislature decides to make them legal, fine.
Well, let me
Can
just
we make
ask you-
one quick distinction? Because I think that this gets brought up a lot with the legislature. VLTs, as we think about them in other states where they're legal, are not in Missouri right now. It's the no chance games for the most part, or illegal
A gray
gambling,
machine game.
or a slot machine that's operating illegally in a gambling lounge that is not. That's
something-
not on a casino floor, right? Like we don't have.
From the text
think-
I'm getting, there are some legislators watching this. So let me just ask you in plain West Butler County hillbilly speak. You can vote how you want, and the government's not going to pull some Donald Trump FBI going after him for politics. You can vote how you want, and you're not going to get investigated and your life ruined, right?
That's right. Unless you take a bribe from somebody,
Yeah.
we're not going to investigate how you vote. We want you to vote your conscience, vote your constituency. We are not looking at any legislators.
To me, it just, again, it is becoming, you think in a one-party state, everything would just fly through and pass. And some stuff, if it touches abortion or something like that, or guns, it does. But on these problems that are probably a little more practical to people's lives, it's becoming harder to address them. And with this BLT legislation, to me, ban them, right? Get rid of them. Or tax them and regulate them. Again, I'm not a gambler. I've never put money into a gas station slot machine. I probably don't intend to because I think I'm cheap, actually. My German cheapness I'm not a moral crusader, but I am quite cheap.
You're not a moral crusader.
Believe it or not,
Your next
no.
coffee mug. There you go.
But I am quite
Yeah.
cheap. And I just think I would lose all my money, and therefore I
I'm
wouldn't do it.
right there with you.
Yeah.
So if they pass this bill, you enforce the new law, right?
That's right. I'll enforce the new law. And hopefully what we're talking about, well, not hopefully, I don't care what the outcome is. Whatever the outcome is, if it remains illegal, I'll continue to go after these machines. If it becomes illegal, then to the extent we have a role in collecting the tax or making sure they aren't used in unlicensed facilities, then we'll enforce that law, whatever it is.
Let me ask you a question. This weekend, when that ruling came out from the federal court judge, if I were you, I'd be like, yeah, I've been telling people, exactly. I would have felt a little bit validated by, yeah, this is what I've been saying.
It was a very helpful ruling, and it's the second one that's come out from Judge Ross saying that these machines are illegal in Missouri. So
He, in his decision, though, he also wrote that he did believe that there was a regulatory gap, right? Is that?
In the same decision where it said these are slot machines,
illegal.
which I don't think anybody really thought they weren't slot machines. I mean, I get you make an argument,
Yeah.
lawyers make arguments, lobbies make arguments. When you walk into a gas station and you see people puffing on a heater and maybe drinking a 40 and dumping money in these things, it's a slot machine. I mean, you can call it what
sure.
you want, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. At the end of the day, though, it talked about a regulatory void. Would it
Yep.
be more helpful to you if they just made it very clear what the law is?
I'm going to let the legislature do their job. I don't want to interfere with the outcome at all. If they say it's legal, great. If they do nothing, it remains illegal, then I'll enforce the law. I will say that even though he says there's a gap, there's case law in Missouri going all the way back to the 1930s where people were trying to do kind of like a chance game, although they call it no chance,
Yeah.
where it would predict whether you'd get a pack of gum on the next play or not.
Like a Keno or a pull tab type
Yeah,
thing?
and all the way back to then, the Missouri courts have said these are games of chance. They're illegal in Missouri. There really hasn't been a regulatory gap. It's been really crafty lawyers who've made really good arguments, and now we're going to have really crafty lawyers from the Attorney General's office making really good arguments against them.
Do you have a little sympathy, though? I saw that your office worked with the Dunklin County prosecutor. Now, I've been to Dunklin County many times. I was in Dunklin County last month. You go in any gas station, and it's just a wall of slot machines, or whatever you want to call them. It feels a little bad that this has went on for, I mean, probably 10 years to a certain degree. That's gotten more and more all the time. But this guy in Dunklin County is doing what everybody else does, and he gets popped. I mean, I know that's how law enforcement works. 50 people can be speeding, and one guy gets ticked. But if the guy, what do you say to that guy that got popped? And let's be honest, he's one of how many hundreds of people that have these in hotels, everywhere. It kind of feels like bad luck on that dude, right? How could he have known when they're illegal in every place you go into that somehow his was going to be the ones he got nailed on?
Well, and not just that every place you go into, but the people who are distributing these machines and manufacturing these machines are saying to that guy,
Sure.
Yeah,
these
they
are
are
legal.
Yeah.
And he's had them. It's not like he's hiding them. They've been
Exactly.
right out there. The
They're
sheriff's deputy comes in and fills up his car.
They're telling
He
him
ain't
that
doing
they're
it in private.
Yep. So, like any other law enforcement endeavor, we're going to start with the worst first. And to me, the worst are the manufacturers and the distributors, but we're also going to work from the bottom up like you would any other organization. And so these guys who have the stores are going to be able to tell us, well, who distributed it to you?
Sure.
Whose machine is this? What did they say to you? All those things.
Well, they put a sticker, I assume.
Well, some do, some don't.
Some don't. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And so, if these guys with the stores will just get rid of the machines, I think that'll be the end.
So
of
that's
that
what
for
you're telling a regular guy that owns a few convenience stores that, let's be honest, has made good money on these, that if you don't want a problem, you know what to do now, and that's to go sell some Snickers or some sodas in that space and move on from this until there's clarity. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so Scott, we've gone way further down the path into our investigative techniques than I usually would, but you know, you're making a good point, and so I want to follow through on it. I don't want to give away all my leverage, right? Because it is the threat that we might impose a fine or
But
maybe
if
even
they don't
some
want to have
time.
the bad consequences come,
Get rid of it. Just
yeah,
get rid of it.
But now you know
Yep.
that if you're a guy in Sedalia watching this, and you've been making good money on these,
Yep,
time to figure out another way to make money, right?
that's right.
Unless the legislature comes in and gives you some clarity to the situation, and then whatever that is, you better follow that law,
You said
right?
it perfectly, Scott.
Yeah, okay.
So
Never
my last
happens.
question on this is,
Yeah.
if we have 20,000 to 30,000 machines, is that the most efficient way to get this system to work, or is it a bill that provides a regulatory framework and gives communities the choice to really get rid of these machines and gives prosecutors tools and gives the highway patrol tools? Like, is it really most efficient to
No, it's
go case by case?
It is terribly inefficient to go case by case, but we
You will.
will.
You will,
And
yeah.
and that's the other thing that I think needs to be appreciated is
Yeah.
we can't wipe it all out with
Right.
one fell swoop. To
Yeah.
your point about there
Yeah, I
being
agree.
20 or 30,000 machines, this is going to be a drudge, you know, going one case at a time.
And you have to hope that at some point you get who's at the top of the
That's
food
right.
chain, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
It is, you have been in high offices before. Were you a little surprised that your statement in a House hearing blew up like that?
I was very surprised.
Yeah, I
really was.
kind of thought, when
'Cause
I
I-
listened to it, I read the story, and then I listened to the audio, I'm like, okay, I don't think she meant to start this firestorm out of this, but I mean, you're the general of all the lawyers, right?
Well, and I mean, here's the thing: is I've been saying it everywhere. That was far
That's
from
true.
the
Yeah,
first
I was
time.
going to say
That's
this
right.
is not the first
No.
time you've talked about it.
I've
yeah.
talked about it on TV and radio, but apparently that
Yeah.
was the moment people listened.
That's
That's okay.
Yeah, you were talking about it as early as this summer. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank our sponsors. We talk about the Great Northwest, as Senator Hageman would say, United Fiber up in the Great Northwest, the best rural broadband in all Missouri. And if you come down to see, let's say you want to come and ask a question yourself, maybe you've got some games that are now illegal or were illegal or whatever. You want to come check out the law for yourself, stay at the Courtyard by Marriott, the top hotel in all of Jefferson City. And if you take a map to get here, right now, if you take 50, you can come all down the new 5th Congressional District, all the way from Kansas City
Yeah.
to Jefferson City. Okay,
Nice transition.
I have an old school affinity for anybody that Kit Bond said was good. So I kind of hated to see them screw Cleaver like that. If you'd have screwed Cory Bush, I'd been like, yeah, that's an embarrassment to the state. Good for the legislature. But Emmanuel Cleaver's an honorable dude, and it kind of, it sort of is a sad thing. But it's been passed to you now, and you're defending the state's position, as is your job as the general of all the attorneys. Where is, it feels like right now, you heard them get all the bill passes, whatever. You get all these signatures. Then it's kind of went into a vortex. And every so often I see a court ruling about this and that. Where is your office in on defending the legislature's law?
So there are a number of cases, most of them filed here in Jefferson City, but at least one in Kansas City that's about to come up for trial. There was a case in federal court in St. Louis. That case may come back alive, but let me kind of give you the 30,000 foot view. So the first thing that was challenged is, can the legislature redistrict halfway through a decade? So previously they'd just done it every time there was a census. That case has gone our way. We've defended the law. The courts so far have said, yes, you can, but it's at the Missouri Supreme Court, and it'll be argued on March 10th. Now, that's an important date because it's about midway through filing. And so filing will have opened with the new districts in place. There's going to be a lot of argument if that case for some reason doesn't end up getting decided in favor of the state, or if at some point they are able to confirm that there are enough valid signatures to put a referendum on the ballot. The other cases pertain to the compactness of the district. That's what's being tried in Kansas City.
That's not going to work, is it?
That
seems like a long shot.
I think there are good arguments that this map is more compact. There are fewer counties that are divided up. So if you look other than Kansas City, if you get to St. Charles and other places, the districts are more compact.
Yeah, we're talking about the good parts of the state, though, like Chillicothe and, Warrensburg and Sedalia. I know someone needs to worry about St. Charles. I'm happy for the
those
folks
are all good places.
Yes, exactly.
And it's
like
a good
in
map for
Warrensburg.
them. And the Great Northwest.
The Great Northwest, that's right.
Yep.
And then the other
Is
case.
it a great map for them?
Is it a great map for them?
Let me ask you this.
It's a really good map.
At some
And
point-
I would say it's a good map for Kansas City. They're going to have more, not less, representation in
That's
Congress.
actually one of the points that I've actually made
it's
about
kind of
it.
funny. Most people in
Pro
Kansas City don't feel that way.
Well,
No, they
because
don't,
they
yeah.
haven't experienced it yet, but we've had that in St. Louis for a long, long time. Now, we don't at the moment.
Well, you have
but,
Ann.
Well, but at one point we had 3 congressional districts representing St. Louis, and frankly, we had more SWAT.
Well,
then.
we had Dick Gephardt and Bill Clay. That's pretty legit.
That's-
Then a guy
that's-
named Jim Talent was
that's
in
a
there.
good-
They
that's a
all at the same
duo.
time at one time,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
they were.
Okay, that's pretty solid.
That's a,
It was pretty
that's a
solid.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't think that gets kicked for compactness, do you?
I don't think
that
it
seems
gets
like a
kicked
long
for
shot.
compactness.
But it does seem like Denny is going to slow walk these signatures as much as possible. What happens if St. Louis, St. Charles, well, maybe St. Charles wouldn't, St. Louis City and County, Jackson County, Greene, and Boone turn their signatures in? That might get you most of the signatures. What if the signatures come in and you have the ones you need in the middle of this process? To me, the only way this doesn't go into effect is if the signatures get certified and it goes on the ballot, right? That's the real test of, is this going to be kicked out or not?
I think that is, well, first of all, I don't think that's legal. Like, let's remember that the position I'm taking is that you can't have a referendum on the congressional districts. We filed that lawsuit in St. Louis. What the judge said there was it's not ripe yet because no one has yet prevented the new districts from going into place.
Why can't you have a referendum on the
So
congressional
you
districts?
have
Because-
case law there. Then
Yeah,
that
well, the
says-
U.S.
yeah,
Constitution delegates the authority to the General Assembly, not to the people. In some states, they have delegated it to a commission or otherwise, but that's never happened in Missouri.
You confident in that?
Am I confident in
Yeah,
that?
but-
Well,
He
as
seems pretty
confident
confident.
as I can
They all-
be
He
as a
seems pretty
lawyer.
confident.
They always pass a statute, though. When you were
Well,
in
they
the
can pass a statute, but they haven't yet. And imagine this: so if we have this referendum,
Yeah.
and the people say no, we don't want the new maps, then we get stuck with the old maps. And for how long? How many referendums? Don't they just put
Well,
a
I think they meant
referendum
for
out
10
there?
years when they passed them the first time, though.
Well,
That's
but
what they meant.
what? Okay, let's say we redistrict after 2030,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't like the maps.
Yeah.
So we have another referendum. So we're still going on maps that are more than 10 years old now? I mean, where's the end of this cycle? I mean, the U.S. Constitution set it up this way for a reason.
I think when they pass the statute, though, that's the map, right?
Yeah.
And you can overturn the people can overturn any statute.
Well,
That's gonna be
the
interesting to hear how
argument
that
we're
plays out.
making,
This
not
isn't-
with
yeah.
respect to how you draw congressional lines.
So that's the one thing the citizens can't veto, is a congressional.
Well, I don't know if it's the
She's gonna
one
argue-
thing.
she's
Do you
gonna
think
argue
this,
it.
if it went to before the voters, you think it passes?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know where the money breaks down, like how the campaign gets run. I think that the
I
people
think
who
it's
have
hard for the state to choke down just truly partisan stuff that has no benefit to anyone except purely for partisan reasons. I think this state has always been a little skeptical of. And I don't know if they'll be skeptical of this. I think Donald Trump would have to come here and tell folks, hey, do me a favor. Then I think everyone will be like, yeah, okay, sure, no problem.
right. So that's
But I
why
think if he
I'm not
doesn't-
predicting any outcomes.
If he
here.
doesn't, I'm not sure Missourians just say, yeah, let's just do something totally for partisan reasons. Do you?
Well, no, I don't think Missourians ever do things for totally partisan reasons.
They do, but I think they're a little hesitant too.
I think what is great about being an office holder in this state and running for office in this state is that Missourians think for themselves. I mean, show me is our motto for a reason. They really want to see that you got the goods and you can support it.
I think there's some truth in that. It'll be interesting to see. Speaking of Misha, my God, Misha is one of those things where I saw the football coaches come out today and support Misha. I'm like, Misha does do some good things. It is not a terrible, totally incompetent, but the dumb things they do are just world-class dumb things. The way they treat those volleyball players in Houston when Carl Lessing, I mean, the stuff they do is colossal. When they do dumb things, they're like me. When I do dumb things, I really set a high bar. Misha just keeps calling attention to themselves. It's like they're almost like public education as a whole. They just can't get out of their own way.
They have a lot of bias, Everybody has a different perspective on this, because if you grew up in high school sports and you were in a school that Misha was not favorable to, it wasn't always great.
Definitely. But some of the stuff they do is just so squirrely that you're like, what are you doing?
Well, over and over again, we've had elite individual athletes in Missouri that Misha has said, oh, you've competed too much in swimming, in track, in tennis. And so we're not going to let you play in your high school state tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
That's just, and that's kind of, the lawsuit we filed is because they're discriminating on the basis of race and gender against anyone who is not a minority or who's not a woman.
How did they deny they are? They clearly are.
They clearly are. They don't deny it. They double down on it.
And I don't mean to speak out of school, but I know a lot of folks involved in Misha. They were proud of that 2 years ago, that they set aside this board seat. That was something that they viewed as a proud thing. They would tout. I don't see how they deny that's what they do.
Well, they don't deny it. So this all started with the superintendent in Cassville wanting to be in an at-large seat. He wrote them. They wrote back, no, those at-large seats are reserved for women and minorities. He referred it to Scott Fitzpatrick, the state auditor. State auditor reaches out. They give the same answer. I can't believe that they're doubling down on this illegal position. Nope, I reach out, they give the exact same answer. So yeah, we're going to win.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, it's one thing to get caught. At least you make up an excuse. Like, no, I was getting this cookie for my sister. Their hand's in the cookie jar and they're like, yeah, I'm taking cookies before dinner. But we're Misha, so you shouldn't be mad at us, right? I mean, that's the position is we're Misha. You don't understand what we do. You just stay over there.
We're really, really special.
It is such a public education attitude of we know best. You just sit over there and shut up. You don't question us. Who are you to question us? It is that arrogant attitude. What are they going to do next year when the state says you can go to any school you want? All the Misha, generally Misha is to keep, if Aaron was a good basketball player, right? And we were in competing
Aaron was
this.
a good basketball
That's what I'm saying.
player.
Even the governors.
I was, yeah.
If
Center.
Okay, I like that. Yeah,
I'll post up for you.
Pick and roll all
I
day.
played baseball because I didn't like to run. But if we were out recruiting her, that's what Misha's for. Is you're not supposed to recruit her to come to your school for whatever reason. You're supposed to come because her family moved there, legitimate reasons. That's kind of what Misha does, and schedules the tournaments. But they've gotten way outside of that.
Way outside.
I mean, how do you people not see this coming? But I just think they run smack into it and don't even see it.
I don't think they see it either, and I've seen lots of evidence that they're going to try and flex, and we're still Misha, and we run the tournaments. They keep acting like this. We have homeschoolers, charter schoolers, people who, want to go to a district that's not their own, that are, at some point, they're going to start thinking about creating their own tournaments.
Well, yeah, I think, do you think, though, there's a world in which the bill that the governor supports, the lawsuit you have, I would think on some level, it's like if I'm a gas station owner right now, I'm probably calling a lawyer at least, or I'm calling my sheriff, or when I see a highway patrolman getting gas, I'm saying, hey, buddy, what do you think? I'm asking questions, and I'm getting ready, because I think people don't want to break the law. I think most of your convenience store folks are like, okay, we better find out. If they're not already putting a tarp over the machines, they're asking around. They're finding out what's up. Mm-hmm. I don't think Misha sees anything they do is wrong. I think they just think they've got this, and that you should just shut up and stay over there in your lane, and we'll do all this. I don't think they even have they totally believe they're right.
Yeah, I don't think my lawsuit is going to open their eyes. I
It
think
should.
the governor's position and what the legislature can do may open their eyes.
It might. And
It might.
the sad part is, you take about 10% of their dumbest things out, it's a pretty well-run organization.
Right.
But the 10% is just colossally dumb. All right, so what are you working on right now that isn't in the papers, but it's important to folks?
Well, the thing I think that's most important to folks, and it's been in the paper some, is this lawsuit we filed against the Census Bureau,
Yeah, that's a big deal.
saying that they should not count illegal immigrants for the purpose of assigning congressional seats, electoral votes, and federal dollars. It's a really big deal. We had this flood of illegal immigrants come into the country. It's resulted in the states that took them getting more congressional seats and places like Missouri getting fewer. The city of Los Angeles alone has 2 million illegal immigrants. That's roughly 2 congressional seats.
Yeah.
Because we don't count those people in Missouri, we're getting fewer. If we stop counting illegal immigrants in the census, we'll get our fair share of congressional seats, 1 to 2 more.
You might even save Cleaver's seat. How about that?
She's trying to redistrict the traditional way. From the very beginning, I've advocated to redistrict this way.
There you go.
Well, if you're here illegally, you should be counted.
I know,
I don't
it's
understand.
crazy. And it encourages places like Minnesota and California
Sure.
to take those people because then their federal grants go way up.
Yeah.
And we see what Minnesota did with their federal grants. So
Wow. Isn't
let's
that
get that
amazing?
money to Missouri.
Do you wish you were still U.S. Attorney when you see something like that? We could really just dive in and clean something up.
I am very happy with the job I have now.
So, but if you have an illegal Somali daycare in Missouri, you better watch your back, right?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
All right. So tell me, you're settled into the job. The campaign part. I saw you last night in Cole County give the speech. I found a Jake Vogel button, and check this out. Pat Thomas is like the greatest promoter of everything. Really, she's
Yeah.
the Don King of Missouri politics. Pat's got a whole thing that she's working on with Missouri 250. You did talk about this lawsuit last night and ballot access and census and all that. It is an interesting thing to think. These folks, so many of the stuff you've uncovered, these people aren't hiding this. It is very brazen. It is very outward. It is very forward. It's kind of weird that nobody has checked some of these things, from drugs to counting illegal folks in the census. Some of the stuff that you're talking about is very, it's very open.
Yep.
Why do you think these things haven't been addressed until now?
I just think there's so many crimes that go on and so much fraud. And also, like during COVID, there were other big national, international issues, and particularly when Biden was in office, like fighting to make sure that Missouri's constitutional rights were upheld was critically important because you had a president who was trampling on them every day. Mm-hmm. So I do think the fact that we have a president with whom we're aligned at the moment, and you know, we can focus on some of the stuff that's impacting Missourians directly is a big part of the reason.
It is interesting. Now, the speaker had a big vote on the video lottery terminals, right? Take folks back to when you were speaker. What's it like to be on that dais and have 79 greens and needing those extra 3? What when you were speaker? What went into making sure? Because I remember back in the day, you used to have like Tom Villa, who knew the rules better than anybody, and you know, John Passion has a tough job. It's tough to be speaker.
It is.
Nobody had as tough a job as you. Your majority was thin. You were new. The Republicans were not used to running things. You had
First woman.
yeah,
right?
governor
job.
of the other party.
Yeah.
So all the bureaucracy was entrenched to do nothing but block you. How do you? What's it like when you're right on that edge? Forget the issue, whatever it is. What's it like when you got that? There's got to be some adrenaline when you have 80 yeses and you're.
There's a lot of adrenaline,
Yeah.
but I always viewed it as a team sport. I grew up playing team sports. It was super important to me that you had a lot of people who were really connected and working together. I was fortunate. I had Rod Jetton, I had Jason Crow, I had Tom Dempsey. Like, these are people who've continued to have, you know, wonderful careers and are all great leaders. But it was always about team building, and we talked all the time, and we probably wouldn't have gone to the floor if we didn't know we had 82. But I will say the other thing that I don't envy about speakers now is 20 years later, when we took the majority, there was a lot of pent-up demand.
Sure.
No Republican bill had been passed
No.
in 48
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And so we could get to agreement on priorities pretty easily. And so I think it's a lot tougher today.
It is interesting
That's fair.
too. I mean, you had to craft policies to get broad-based support. Now, John Patterson really only has to cater to the right of the right. It's a different world. I'm not sure in some ways it's not tougher to be him because you all had to hang together. You're going to hang separately.
That's right.
I mean, you had Carl Bearden with you. I always think Richard Byrd sometimes doesn't get his due as far as
You're so right
a
about
brilliant
that.
legislator. But you know, if you all didn't stick together, you're going to get humiliated.
Yeah.
In,
That's
in,
right.
in today's world, I mean, pretty much Republicans do whatever they want, and they're going to win the majority.
I lost exactly one.
Oh, which one was that?
It was the renaming of Missouri State. We didn't get it done while I was Speaker. We debated it for 14 hours. And so I was glad to see it get done
Kevin Engler
later.
come in, and he got when he got to the Senate, he brought it in.
But like
you,
at that,
you debated on the floor in the House for 14 hours.
14 hours.
Wow.
So did you just think you'd wear him out?
That's what I thought. I was wrong. So
Some bleeding black and gold in that. in
there
that
was
house
some
at the
people
time,
bleeding
so-
black and gold.
Yeah.
I remember back in the day that Bill Kinney would always look at Ken Jacob, and he had his little Truman doll he kept on his desk. And when Kim would do too much, he would kind of shake it at him. And he had a big bonding bill, I think, was up, and Bill would look at Ken and be like this, and Ken would be like, you know, Ken never he was well in touch with his temper, and he would scream and yell, and that'd be that. We've got to thank our folks. Catherine Hanaway is quite Missouri, but there ain't much more Missouri than the products from the Mocan Trade Association. Planted, grown, tested, packaged, sold, everything consumed right here in the state of Missouri. We thank them for sponsoring the show. So, getting back in the political part, running for re-election, you came out right out of the gate and said, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this to run again. Lincoln Days this weekend, going to be fun. What's the biggest change in the time? I know you ran in 16, but you had some time out of it. Now that you're in this every day in office, what's the biggest change in the political landscape?
You know, people are just more extreme in
Yeah.
all regards.
Both sides.
I can't wait for statewide Lincoln Days. I really am interested to see like who comes. I was surprised at how many people were in Cole County last night that
Yeah.
I've known for 25 years. Maybe one of the changes is I'm not seeing as many young faces, and that's troubling. We need the young faces. I think young people were drawn to vote for Trump through social media and those kinds of things, but we still need that like grassroots energy. So I hope young people will come out to some of these Lincoln Days and other functions and get involved in the party.
What do you do to bring a young person in like that?
I think you got to find issues they care about, that they really care about, and I think Misha, believe it or not, might be one
Yeah.
of them because
Yeah, I can see that.
it's something that's impacted a lot of their lives directly.
Yeah.
But you gotta. A long time ago, a very wise woman told me that when that voter gets in the voting booth, the last thing they ask is, which of these people is going to be better for me? Like, people do think
100%.
about their own
Sure.
interests when they're in there. And so as we try and grow the party and keep the party energized and strong, I think we got to think about what we're delivering for people who we're asking to knock doors, stuff envelopes, you know, put out social media posts, put their own reputations on the line.
I have a question. Do you worry? I've asked the governor this a couple times now. When you took the majority, tax cuts, right?
Yep.
I'm kind of a Republican because if we're not doing tax cuts, I'm probably not here. I don't like telling people how to live their life. Just cut taxes and stay out of my life. The tax cuts, you've went the majority that you gave. 10 years later, cut taxes on a path from 6 to 4. And I watched that debate myself in both chambers. There were a lot of prognostications, a lot of predictions about how this was going to be what helped Missouri and grew Missouri. Prosperity would come, and of course, my thought is, of course, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. You come in
Right.
office, you cut taxes, the economy grows, everybody's happier. Unfortunately, none of those predictions have come true. Now, I happen to believe sometimes we think we're a bigger deal in Jeff City than really. There's national, international trends that have probably had a lot to do with these things. But do you worry that all of the thoughts on the tax cuts that have been so far, nothing has happened that people predicted? And now the governor wants to go to zero. Now, my fallback, which Aaron disagrees with, is I think Mike Keogh has the best business resume since maybe Lloyd Stark and maybe a governor, maybe not even Lloyd Stark. He inherited his money. Mike Keogh made his own.
That's right.
I'm not qualified to tell Mike Keogh he's wrong. Do you worry, though, that the tax cuts have not had the effect they were promised, and now you're going to triple down on those.
Well, I just don't think it's been a big enough reduction in taxes yet. And there are good things happening in Missouri. Look at the investment that Boeing is making right now in Missouri. If they did not believe this was a business-friendly climate, I mean, they're going to build the next generation of fighter planes here. That's a big deal. It's a lot of jobs, it's sophisticated jobs, plus the capital investment they're making. And there's companies making those investments all over the state, but it takes a while. Plus, while we've been cutting taxes, we've been in this high crime environment. And that keeps people out of Missouri, certainly out of our cities, more than anything else. So you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. You got to reduce taxes, but you also got to fight crime and the other things that are important.
If crime's at zero, if taxes are at zero, and people still think they'll be murdered in downtown St. Louis, I'm not sure it really matters, does it?
Well, it will be an uphill battle.
Do you feel safe right now in downtown St. Louis, let's say 3 blocks north of the ballpark?
Well, that's about where our office is in downtown.
I just thought of that when
She's doing the math there. She's like,
I'm just counting blocks here.
Do you go to?
I go to my office.
Do you have dinner on Washington Avenue?
Not anymore. I don't.
Yeah, I used to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right now, if Casey told me she was going to go out to dinner in Clayton, I'd be like, well, that's wonderful.
Right.
If she told me she was going on Washington Avenue, whatever, I don't even know if there's anything in the old Dubliner or wherever, I'd be like, no, what's the options here? You sure? I have been downtown when it's been great. The soccer stadium has brought a lot of folks. To me, when there's people around, you feel safer.
Yeah.
But you go to Washington Avenue right now, I don't feel safe. And I sure wouldn't want Casey to go down there alone.
No, and that's not where the action is. I mean, the action now is kind of downtown west up through the ballparks, and what Bob O'Loughlin and Steve O'Loughlin led in terms of all the sports teams coming together and passing some entertainment district legislation last year was a big deal for the community. But it's a big deal because it's going to allow them to do private policing when there are big events. That should not be what we're relying on to drive violence out of the state.
But I think that's a good patchwork.
It is.
Until you can get there. And plus, if folks want to invest in, I agree with you. It's not how you should have to do it, but I think in that situation, it's a decent common sense stopgap maybe.
Well, and I think it's very telling that the governor's first priority in his first session was that crime bill and getting the state back in control of the City of St. Louis Police Department. Those are going to be extremely positive steps for reducing violence.
I underestimated, and these are folks I'm sure you talk to frequently. Not the guys I'd met at the union hall, but weren't union leaders. They weren't negotiators or business managers. Your average cop on the street, the morale boost that was. I underestimated that. I bet you didn't. You must have seen that coming.
Well, I knew it was going to be a very big deal, and I knew that they felt like they'd been abandoned out there on the street. And, we had Ferguson and Shockley and all these things in St. Louis that made it nearly a miracle that people would sign up for the academy and put their lives on the line and ask their families to make those kinds of sacrifices when no one was saying they had their backs. So now that they have a governor that says, I've got your back, we're going to do everything you need, it makes a big difference.
You've been Speaker, U.S. Attorney, now Attorney General. Do you see the path to a safe downtown St. Louis? Do you see what that looks like and how to get there?
I do, but it's 3 layers. It's law enforcement, it's some kind of mental health solution, and then it's money coming back in with jobs. You've got to have people down there. And I think the O'Loughlin's vision that you start with entertainment where people come down kind of temporarily. They come down for a big ball game or a concert, start to feel safe is the right path.
I went to the guy from Tires, a comedy show. And at the same night, there was a soccer game and a blues game.
Yeah, what's his name?
Shane Gillis.
Shane
Yes,
Gillis.
I went and saw Shane Gillis, who was like the Dave Chappelle of a generation. Hilarious.
Hilarious.
An Irish Dave Chappelle.
Okay, he does look a bit Irish, Aaron. Right. We're coming up on the cusp of your holiday.
Gillis is Irish.
It does seem Irish,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Well, there's no German
Give us a
comedians,
win. Give our
There are
people a
no
win.
German
There's
comedians,
none.
thank God.
None,
Yeah.
They might be, but they'd starve.
Yeah.
So I went to that Shane, and we were walking back, and I stopped at that Maggie's, whatever that Irish bar is across from the soccer stadium. Soccer game just got out. I felt totally safe.
Absolutely.
But there were people there. No one's going to come up and shoot you, I don't think, if there's hundreds of people around. I think maybe he's, the more, if you have people around, and
right.
whether you talk to people in St. Louis, say, well, it's not as bad as it looks and the stats are in this, but there is a feeling that matters very much.
Feelings matter,
They do.
especially for women. Like, you don't
Yeah.
go places that you don't
I don't wanna
feel safe. I don't check the
I'm always the
per
fattest
capita
person in my
crime
friend group.
before I walk down a street. That's not. It's how I feel
It's
and
easy
what I
for you
look
to say,
around.
Aaron. If you and I were walking down the street in St. Louis, just
I'm fine
geometrically,
with
I'm
you.
much more likely to be the
Yeah.
one that's shot than you.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to have to be a good marksman to hit
I
you.
like my statistical odds there.
Yeah, so it's very easy for you to say that.
By myself, not so much.
I got to say, you got to check this out. We're coming up on the anniversary of the Iron Curtain speech. So we're going to be back here at 3 o'clock with Modern Health Alliance, Dina Ladd, but really Thursday, we're going to be at Westminster kind of previewing the kick. I think the governor's coming up on Friday. It's going to be the start of a really cool time up in Fulton, the history of that Iron Curtain speech. It is, I think sometimes we take it for granted. I mean, how
That's
many
right.
times have you been to
Absolutely.
Fulton in
Yeah.
your career? 50. Can you even count them?
No.
And I think there's a part of us that take for granted some of the real special parts of this state. And that's going to be a terrific way to talk about an internationally significant event that happened right here in Missouri in Fulton. And it kind of, our show will kick off part of the festivities on Thursday up in Fulton. I was going to see if Erin, this is the first she's hearing of this, if she was free. But we'll be up in Fulton on Thursday, and it's going to be kind of neat. The governor's coming Friday. It's a great time to really kick off some of the events that I think sometimes we take that for granted.
Well, and if there's ever a speech anywhere in the world that shows that leadership and what you say make a difference, it's that speech, and it's Ronald Reagan saying, "Tear down this wall."
Well, it was your testimony in the House Budget Committee.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it was this. And I got to check this out, all the way from West Plains. I got this. Talk about significant historical figures. Porter Wagner, Howell County's own, got this shirt sent to me. Thank you very much. Thank you for the time. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I always enjoy the visit.
Thanks.
It is nice when you interview somebody where it kind of feels like you're just talking. And I remember I came in, I was supposed to tell you something, and you had the cigar going in the speaker's office one day. And of course, I was as intimidated as I am right now, actually. And we sit down and talked for 20 minutes, and I keep thinking, I've got to go. And you're like, no, you're fine. And you had a pile of papers you're reading, I'm sure the highly important government documents. And it kind of feels like back then just shooting the breeze, and I appreciate you making the time.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
We'll be back at 3 o'clock. Don't miss us Thursday at Westminster. We'll be back here at 3 of the Modern Medical Alliance, and Sunday, Rick Bratton makes a big announcement here on This Week in Missouri Politics.